Have you ever stopped to consider that the reality you experience, the world you navigate every single day, might be less about the external and more about, well, the intricate workings of your own being?
Hmm.
Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we pull apart fascinating ideas. Today, we're embarking on an exploration into, the profound relationship between our biological makeup and something that feels intrinsically deeper.
Something perhaps even divine in how we perceive everything around us.
Exactly.
Our compass for this journey is a really thought-provoking article from Interzistance. It's titled The Divine Design of Human Perception, Unlocking the Sacred Psychology of
It's
Existence.
the one.
And this piece, it boldly attempts to bridge these often separate worlds, science and spirituality, focusing specifically on the very act of how we take in and interpret the world.
Yeah, and our aim in this deep dive is pretty straightforward. Extract the most compelling insights from this rather substantial article, offer you a fresh lens, maybe an intriguing one, to view your own experiences.
Without getting totally bogged down in academic speak.
Right. Okay, so the article kicks off by laying some groundwork, looking at the basic biology of our senses: light, sound, smell, taste, touch, just the raw data coming in.
Yes, it outlines those initial stages quite meticulously. Photons hitting the retina, sound waves in the cochlea, molecules with receptors,
The standard
the
mechanisms.
stuff we sort of learn in school.
Exactly. But then it immediately poses this question that really makes you pause. What precisely happens during the transformation when these purely physical signals become, well, our conscious awareness?
And that's the jump, isn't it? It's at this point the article suggests something really intriguing occurs, this active interpretation.
Our brains, it argues, aren't just passive recorders. They're actively shaping the reality we experience.
Which is a big claim.
It is. And what's fascinating here is the article's proposition about this filtering process. It's influenced by our biases, memories, beliefs, even our expectations moment to moment.
All that internal stuff. Right. And the article asks, could this filtering serve a purpose beyond just being functional? It actually ventures into this idea that it might be part of a divine design.
A divine design. How so?
Well, perhaps as an inherent characteristic that allows for the really nuanced subjective nature of our individual consciousness as it evolves. Think about confirmation bias, for example.
Okay, yeah, where
Yeah.
we look for stuff that confirms what we already think.
Exactly. Could that seemingly flawed process, if you look at it through this divine design lens, actually play a role in solidifying our unique perspectives,
Hmm.
maybe shaping our individual path of learning?
That really makes you reconsider those internal filters, doesn't it? The article even delves into the pineal gland.
Ah, yes, the often debated pineal gland. That small gland associated with intuition, mystical experience.
Oh, wow, history, yeah.
The article highlights its historical role and its potential contemporary role in what it calls spiritual signal processing. It suggests that when we feel resonance with ideas, emotions, places even,
That feeling of connection.
yeah, that feeling, it might not be random.
Hmm.
The article proposes it's linked to our internal state, like a kind of alignment. Science is still evolving here, of course,
Naturally.
but it raises this intriguing possibility that our perception goes beyond just physical input, maybe taps into subtler layers of information.
Okay, so this is where the discussion takes a really interesting turn, moving into consciousness itself. And the article defines it beyond just being awake. It emphasizes awareness with agency.
That's a crucial distinction the article makes.
Hmm.
It underscores that we're not just passive receivers. Our perception actively shapes our thoughts,
Which then influences our
which
feelings.
is then drives our behaviors and ultimately molds our whole experience. It's presented as this dynamic cycle. Our way of seeing directly impacts the reality we actually inhabit.
And this ties right into a very deep spiritual concept the article explores: the idea of reality functioning as a mirror.
Precisely.
Right.
It draws these really thought-provoking parallels, like with the law of attraction, the idea that like attracts like, or even ancient practices like Tibetan dream yoga, where you explore reality's nature through conscious dreaming. It even touches on the observer effect in quantum physics.
The observer changing the observed.
That's the one. The central thread here is that what we perceive out there is deeply, deeply intertwined with our internal landscape. As the article puts it, quite powerfully, I think, you don't just see your life, you create it by the way you see it.
Wow. Well, it's empowering, but also a bit challenging, right?
Definitely.
Now, the article digs deeper into this connection by looking at perception and our emotional world, our feelings.
Yeah, and what's particularly insightful here is how it emphasizes the deep, often subconscious links between what we perceive and how we feel. It uses relatable examples,
Right.
like a specific smell instantly triggering a flood of childhood memories, or a certain song evoking this powerful sense of grief. These aren't just random, the article
So
argues.
what are they then?
It interprets these strong emotional responses as the soul speaking in symbols, a way for our deeper consciousness to prompt remembrance, connect us with significant past experiences.
Soul speaking in symbols. I like that.
It even brings in Carl Jung's concept of archetypes, those universal patterns like the hero, the mother.
Right, the collective unconscious stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And the article suggests these archetypes subtly color how we perceive and interpret the world. Like maybe the nurturer archetype makes someone notice kindness more readily, give it more weight.
Oh, okay, I see.
And connecting this more broadly, the article proposes the soul perceives time differently than our minds do, linearly. It remembers through feelings.
Through emotions.
Yes, and these deeply ingrained emotional memories shape our understanding of meaning, our morality, how we connect with others. The conclusion is that our perceptual lens isn't just cognitive, it's fundamentally sacredly emotional.
Imbued with the weight of our experiences.
Precise.
Okay, but the article doesn't just paint a rosy picture. It also raises a big concern about the modern world potentially distorting this sacred lens.
Yes, it takes a pretty critical stance here, characterizing our contemporary environment as, and I quote, engineered for distraction.
Engineered for distraction, that rings true.
It argues we've sort of, maybe unwittingly, traded genuine, mindful perception for just constant reaction. Our attention is the commodity, right?
Yeah.
And our ability to see clearly gets fogged up by all the noise.
Just think about the notifications, the endless social media scroll, the sheer volume of info, often conflicting opinions.
Exactly. The article suggests this constant input actually fragments the soul's ability to truly perceive, to truly understand.
And what's the impact of that fragmentation?
Well, it raises this crucial point about overstimulation hijacking our natural perception, making it harder and harder to access those deeper levels, intuition, insight, inner knowing, the very things the divine design might offer.
Like the subtle signals get drowned out.
That's the idea, just too much noise.
And this disconnection from our own inner selves, the article argues, then impacts how we see others, right?
Absolutely. When we're not grounded in our own authentic perception, we're more likely to project our own stuff, judgments, pain, distortions, onto others.
Which just obscures things even further, makes it hard to see clearly ourselves or anyone else.
Exactly. Filters of judgment, projection, pain, as the article puts it.
Okay, so if modern life throws up these huge challenges to our perception, what can we actually do? The article suggests ways to reclaim this divine design, doesn't it?
It does, and what's valuable is the emphasis on tangible actions. It suggests that by consciously choosing to slow down,
Which is hard.
oh, definitely, but by slowing down, turning attention inward, cultivating presence, we can start to reconnect with that more sacred way of seeing.
And it gets specific. It mentions mindful breathwork first.
Yeah, describing it as foundational, bringing awareness to the body's connection to now.
Anchoring us.
And nature immersion.
Yeah.
Getting outside. Right. Engaging with the natural world's beauty, its rhythms.
Yeah.
It can resensitize our senses, restore balance through those organic contrasts.
It also mentions spiritual fasting. Now, that might sound a bit intense for some listeners.
Sure, but the article frames it less about just physical abstinence and more as a deliberate quieting of external noise. A way to reevaluate desires, create space for clearer perception to emerge.
Okay, making space. And then there's journaling.
A powerful tool, it suggests, for making our unconscious perceptual patterns conscious. So we can actually look at them, maybe redirect them if we need to.
Becoming aware of the lens itself.
Exactly. And finally, it talks about the profound value of stillness.
Just silence.
Pretty much. Stillness as the essential backdrop. When the mind's chatter subsides, maybe you can hear the soul's whispers, as the article poetically puts it.
And it stresses these aren't about escaping reality.
No, crucially not. They're about refining and restoring the clarity with which we perceive reality. Sharpening the lens, not running away.
This leads to a really powerful point the article makes, almost an ethical one. Perception carries a kind of spiritual responsibility.
Yeah, think about it. If the premise holds that our perception shapes our reality, then how we choose to see the world directly impacts how we treat others.
What we believe is possible.
Even the energies and experiences we attract. It's a significant implication.
So if our way of seeing has that much influence, The article argues we have a genuine obligation almost to cultivate clarity, compassion, humility in how we perceive.
Not just for ourselves, but for the collective, for the wider world. It matters.
And it concludes that our individual perception has this radiating effect, doesn't it? It ripples out.
Beautifully put, yes.
Yeah.
Influencing every interaction. And it offers that really resonant thought. Seeing someone as divine invites them to remember they are,
Wow. That's something to really sit with.
isn't it?
So as we wrap up this deep dive, the Interzistance article leaves us with this compelling picture. Human perception as this incredible, almost fragile gift. A divine design, powerful yet vulnerable to distortion.
hmm And the key takeaway, I think, is that we're meant to be active, conscious participants, not just passive observers, but stewards of this sacred awareness.
The article suggests divinity isn't just a belief, but maybe something we can learn to actually see through.
And ultimately, it seems to circle right back to our own inner state, doesn't it?
How so?
The clearer, the more honestly we see ourselves, the more clearly, perhaps even the more divinely, we'll perceive the world around us.
So maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to kick around. Consider how just one small intentional shift in your perception today.
Just one small change.
How might that ripple outwards, changing not just your immediate experience, but maybe subtly influencing your interactions, the world around you?
Something to ponder.
Definitely. Remember to like, share, and follow us on social media at Interzistance.
And for more interesting articles and topics of discussion like this one, please do visit interzistance.com.